Hey, you folks, it's Nate, and it's time I got back to the drawing board. And today, in honor of kicking off my own crowdfunding campaign, I wanted to look at another one of the independent comics I've been looking at and reading in the last couple of months and give you my thoughts on it. Today, we're going to be looking at Soulfinder Black Tide by Douglas Ernst, illustrated by Matthew Weldon. But before that, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about my project, Hexwood, Dust, and Ashes, there's a link to the crowdfunder down below. You can read through a basic plot summary there and see some of the sampled pages. Now let's get on to the book. This book is different from the books I have been looking at on this channel up till this point in that it had no crowdfunding campaign. Ernst has done, he's taken a bit of a gamble, to be perfectly honest. There was no pre-funding for this. He commissioned all the art from Matt Weldon. He ordered all of the books out of his own pocket. He wrote the whole thing completely on speculation, and I understand that this is paying off for him pretty well. It doesn't really surprise me. He did crowdfund his last book, the previous book in the Soulfinder series, and it did just fine. He fulfilled it on time. It was a good book. It was a fun read. I've already reviewed it, and I will link that review down in the description below if you're interested in seeing my thoughts on that. And he had a lot of goodwill built up there. So he chose not to do the crowdfunding song and dance, not to make people wait any longer than the shipping time in order to get their book. And he paid for everything out of pocket rather than asking his customers to speculate on whether the book would come. Not that I think that that's much of a speculation, to be perfectly honest. Iconic Comics in general, and Doug in particular, have done fine fulfilling their crowdfunding obligations on time. So I don't think anyone was really concerned that he wouldn't be able to do that. But it is interesting that he chose this method. So my understanding is that Black Tide has done better than Soulfinder Demons Match in every metric so far. I don't know if that has anything to do with the way it's being offered, simply because, well, to be perfectly honest, most crowdfunders from a creator on the level of Ernst and Weldon are going to do better your second time out than they did the first time out, because people are going to have talked up the project to their friends. They're going to have made reviews like the one I did for Demons Match, and they're going to be waiting in anticipation for the next campaign. Not to mention, the Iconic Comics website had Soulfinder Demons Match on sale this whole time. So rather than waiting for the crowdfunder to get that first volume out into people's hands, people were just buying the book and reading it this whole time. So I think that we aren't getting a whole lot of an idea whether this business model is better than the standard crowdfunding campaign business model based on one campaign. I think we would have to see several different creative teams do this over time in order to really get a picture whether one is better than the other. I think that based on his personality and his ideas about customer service and what it means to put a good product in people's hands, Doug Ernst is probably going to stick with this method for distributing his comics in the future. And, if he's doing better with this than he was with the previous method, why not? No point in, fixing something that ain't broken. But on the whole, I think that this book by itself is not a data point in the methodology of crowdfunding. But let's talk about the book itself, since I don't think we can draw any conclusions on any other topic. First of all, this is a hardback. Iconic Comics is starting to offer hardbacks. You can also get a soft cover of this, although not just yet. There was some kind of a snafu at the printers, and I think the credits page was missing. And obviously, Doug wants everybody who worked on this book to get their proper credits. So the soft cover will not be coming out until that is fixed. But you can get this hardcover right now. It's $30, which is a really good price for an independently funded book. That is, what is this? I think it's 100 pages. Now, not all of that is story. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But there's more than 100 pages here. It's got this nice gloss and an embossed front. Again, not if you saw my Bigfoot bill, you know the back was not embossed there, and it's not embossed here either. And then there's UV spotting. So I understand that this harpoon here and the flare up here actually glow in the dark, which is, I haven't actually like taken this into a closet and looked at it to be sure, but if true, pretty cool. So yeah, there's a great form factor to this. It has gilt edges on the pages, very very nice. Now, this story is, I believe, 64 pages, maybe 48. I'm going for, I'm thinking 64. That page numbers, so I can't say for sure. But it's full color. But if you really love Matthew Weldon's art and you want to see just the line art in black and white, they also have that. Now that's pretty cool. For somebody who does find Weldon's art to be just fantastic, it is fun to be able to see just the line work. Not that the colored version is bad. It is good. And the colorist does great work. Who colored this? Colors by Brett R. Smith. So yeah, he did a great job there. But the black and white is really fascinating to look at, especially as an artist myself. I find the black and white pages to be pretty fun. They're fully lettered, so you can enjoy the story that way as well. It's, I guess, whichever your cup of tea is. So that is good as always. I struggle to find any kind of critique to offer to Matthew Weldon. He is an exceptionally good artist. He just does everything so well. I feel like some pages, like a lot of these underwater pages, there's a lot of detail there that's left for the colorist. I presume that's a fairly typical practice. I can't really comment a whole lot on it. It does look a little weird on some of the pages. Of course, they weren't. I don't know as this was originally the way it was intended to be presented, but there you have it. So yeah, I think that this art is really great. And I can't really say a whole lot about things that I didn't like about it or that I was unsure about. Yeah, I know in other Weldon books I've critiqued sometimes expressions on faces have seemed a bit off, but I really didn't see that in this book either. I think he's upped his game on that point, and the faces are really good and expressive. I especially compliment his. I know Brett Smith, of course, did the lighting here and did the coloration, but the line work on energy. Weapons and the whatever you call ectoplasm or whatever that is coming out of the demons there. That's really good. And I find that stuff really cool because I struggle to do it at times in my own line work. So yeah, great art. Mad props to Matthew Weldon. Story wise, this is a departure from Soulfinder Demons Match. And what I mean by that is Soulfinder Demons Match was a slower story that got deep into the characters so we could get to know them some. This book is driven almost entirely by the plot. There is some character development. We especially learn more about Detective Chua, who is a fascinating character, somewhat headstrong, I think. He definitely has a kind of a take charge attitude, and I like that about him. But as for Father Redder and the other, gosh, who is 77? Soulfinder 77. What is his name? We don't learn a whole lot about him. Father Crane, that's who it is. Um, we see him kind of get in over his head, not through bad judgments. He's just outmaneuvered. And he reacts to that quite well. One of my critiques, not really a critique, but one of the hurdles I anticipated um, in my review of Demon's Match was that Father Crane and Father Redder are both men who are extremely strong in their faith, and they are going to respond to challenges in ways that are not necessarily as interesting to the audience as a breakdown or a soul searching or really heavy, inner conflicts that we see played for drama or melodrama in a lot of media. That's not necessarily bad. For starters, the contrast is nice. Um, but in this book, by having Redder get outmaneuvered rather than having some kind of crisis of faith and then respond by holding out due to his own personal integrity, we get a really good look at who Father Redder is, or not Father Redder, Father Crane is on a fundamental level. Um, he is a solid guy, but he is very limited because he gets outmaneuvered. His strategy probably could have been better in this. Of course, part of the problem, what got him outmaneuvered, was the fact that Detective Chua misread the situation a bit. He didn't share information when he could have, and thus Crane and Redder went in a little bit unprepared. But that kind of writing shows that Ernst is really trying to test these characters, not their moral fiber so much, because these are men who are very already dedicated and focused on their morals and their principles. And rather, he is testing them by putting them in extreme circumstances, which is fun to see. And I really wish we would see it in media more. And it does really show us that Father Crane can rise to that occasion. He is an equal to getting outmaneuvered and outflanked and having to hold out until help comes, not knowing if help will come. And that is fun to see. I wish we saw more of it, in all honesty. And I really like that Ernst did that here. Redder himself does not get a whole lot of character development here. And I think that's okay. I think that we saw a lot of Redder's circumstances. In the first book, we got a sense of who his family is, what his background is, what drives and motivates him. And seeing him just stick the course and really play this out while the characters around him get a chance to shine brings some balance to the series. Now, whether further books are going to return to some of those interpersonal relationships we saw developed in the first book, or whether we're going to continue with this faster paced, more action driven, plot oriented storytelling is yet to be seen. I know that Doug has talked on his YouTube channel a bit about researching rock climbing for his next book. So there's that. That sounds pretty interesting. But I am hoping that he continues to find ways to dig into these characters, both through the situations they're in and through the their interactions with people in their quote unquote civilian lives, that will give us a better sense of who they are, and develop them more. I don't think that Doug has to show either Redder or Crane having a crisis of faith to continue developing the characters. And as I said before, I think that would be wholly inappropriate for the kinds of people we are dealing with. But it is a high hurdle and a difficult challenge to develop these characters. And so far, Doug Ernst has done a good job doing that. And I would like to continue seeing him do a good job doing that. But I would also like him to craft a story that will do a great job developing those characters for us. And this Black Tide, with this really fast-paced, action-driven, on the edge of your seat most of the time kind of storytelling, is great. And honestly, this kind of story needs that from time to time. Um, but I guess for me, as someone who's fascinated by character writing, I am kind of waiting for that really great character development story to come forth. Um, so that's kind of what I'm looking for writing wise going forward. Although I am quite satisfied. In fact, I will say that Doug Ernst has done an excellent job writing both of these books. Of the two, I think it's safe to say that Demon's Match I enjoyed more, but Black Tide is the better book, um, just because it shows us it can eschew some of the establishment of character and rely on our having read the first book, and just plunge straight into the action. That said, I don't know as this is a good jumping on point if you want to get into the Soulfinder unit. They don't spend a whole lot of time setting up the world or the Order of Soulfinders. It's all handled in a couple of pages of exposition at the beginning. Um, and those pages aren't the greatest pages in the book. I found a little clunkiness in some of that dialogue, which you are going to have that, especially when you're doing exposition in a comic book. But it is worth noting because it is the goal of every writer to avoid that as much as possible. Now, since this was not a crowdfunder, there's nothing but the book to talk about. But if you're a Roman Catholic and you pray the Rosary, I understand you can also get a Soulfinder Rosary to go with your book. Now, I'm not Catholic. I don't pray the Rosary, but I thought the Soulfinder Rosaries were really cool. They were out of stock when I ordered my book, so I wasn't able to get one. Maybe I will, the next time I order something from Iconic Comics, I will see if they're in stock and add one on. But they do look pretty neat. So if those are your thing, certainly that's worth checking out as well. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this book. It was interesting as always. Doug Ernst comes at things from a different perspective than I do, and it was fun to read that. It was fun to see the brilliant illustrations here. And if you're looking for one independent comic to get, and you're not a fan of superheroes, Soulfinder will do you very well. That's all I've got for you today. Again, I have a crowdfunder going right now that you can check out, link down in the description below. I hope you'll do that and consider supporting. I'll talk to you later.